Welcome everybody to Ecophysiotherapy Presents Health, Wellness, and Lifestyle. My name is Madeline Golick and I'm the pelvic floor physiotherapist as well as the owner of Ecophysiotherapy. And my guest today is Gina. Welcome to the show, Gina.
Hi, Madeline. Thank you very much for having me.
I'm very excited to talk about this topic, but before we reveal it to our viewers, I thought maybe we could start a little bit about you.
Okay, sure. So I'm a holistic health therapist and also an accelerated growth coach. What does that mean? So when someone is addressing health and wellness, there are basically two ways to address it. For the most part, we've been, conditioned for many years, especially in the North American culture, to go the allopathic medicine route, which is typically, treating the symptom mainly with drugs or surgery. The holistic approach is addressing health and wellness, not just what's going on physically, because we're not just flesh and bones and blood and tissue. We're very much more than that, and it addresses not just your physical health. It addresses your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual health. So all of these combined is what makes us tick, if you will. And that's the holistic approach, is to really look at all these aspects of who we are and balancing those so that we can be truly healthy. So I've been doing this now for 16 years. And you could probably, wonder, well, what got you into this? And
I was just going to ask, yes.
The catalyst was actually to have to witness my mother go from being a very vibrant, healthy, robust woman who basically died within a 6-month period. She was diagnosed at the age of 49. With stomach cancer, and no one knew. It didn't look like she was sick, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, one day she was diagnosed and very rapidly deteriorated her health. And as I said, in a 6-month window, she's gone from being this healthy, robust, vibrant woman to being gone. So that was in and of itself tragic and obviously very traumatic. So difficult to comprehend, difficult to accept. And so it kind of got me on the journey. That was the thing that really, it was like the light switch got turned for me. And I thought, how can this happen? Why does it happen? And how do people, how do people get sick, and why do they get sick, and why do some people get this type of disease as opposed to another type of disease? And how can we help ourselves? How can we, prevent it from happening? And if it is happening, how can we address it without having to go through the surgery route or the medicine route, the synthetic drug route? And she was actually a guinea pig at the time that she passed. It was late 80s. They had just introduced chemotherapy was a new therapy. So that protocol was still very much in the test stages, and she was a guinea pig. So that was the thing that got me moving towards wanting to learn this, to address my own issues, and then to see how it worked for me so that I could help others and give them a better quality of life, help them prevent illness if I could, as well as address and restore their health in a natural way.
Yeah, and I think, prevention is one of those keys, and we sort of focus on the physical, like the eat well and the physical exercise part, but we often really do forget about the emotional component, and it so very much stores in the body. And we pick those up in early childhood, is from what I'm learning in my own personal research on emotions, is we pick up those things really early, and it's not until later that those emotions come and give us the bill.
You're absolutely correct. Very much so. In fact, more importantly, obviously our physical form, our physical shell is very important. However, by the time things have now manifested to the symptom stage, to the disease stage on the physical level, they've been in your aura, they've been in your energy field for much, much longer. And so they have affected your emotional health, your mental health, as well as your spiritual health. So to be able to say that now you're dealing with what the disease is, it didn't just happen overnight. My mom's disease didn't just happen overnight.
Right.
We just didn't know what led to that. And so my journey has taken me through learning what could cause that. Where does it all start? And lo and behold, it all starts in our mind. So that is kind of where, we want to talk about root cause. What are our thoughts and emotions doing? What are we saying to ourselves? What are we saying to others? And we bring that energy, because everything at the end of the day is energy. We bring that energy with us. We store it in our bodies. Many doctors have reported on this, done studies on this, written articles about this, where they say getting the issues out of your tissues.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
Okay, so then maybe this might be a good time to ask you, like, what are your views on illness and disease? So I think we've kind of touched upon that we have to look at it holistically, but is there anything else that you sort of view differently about illness and disease that might be interesting for our viewers?
Well, my views on illness and disease, first of all, my belief is that we were made perfect. And everything that we need is right inside of us. We are actually, it's our birthright to be healthy, happy, to be whole. Why do people get sick? Again, it's all relative to the person because of our inner workings, because of how we're hardwired, because of our filters. And there are many of them in our how our mind works. Because we have our five senses and information comes in through those five senses. We all process very, very differently. You can be a twin sharing an egg, housed in a womb for 9 months, and you and your sister will probably go through the same thing and deal with that issue very, very differently.
Absolutely.
So how it affects you is ultimately going to create a pattern within your life of how you do things, because we say in NLP world, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you find that you continuously repeat something, we are creatures of habit after all. So we are patterned creatures. We will continue to do things when we don't realize that there's something that's triggering that pattern. Something has to set that pattern off.
Yeah.
And so as far as illness and disease goes, each of us is going to address our issues very, very differently, and what we perceive to be our problems, because we all have them, right? It's how do we deal with them? How do we perceive them? How do we address them?
Yeah.
Right? The point of this is that we have everything we need inside of ourselves.
Yeah.
How do we connect with that? Well, that's the whole growth process. That's the journey that we go through in this thing called life. We're all going to learn it at our own pace, in our own time. Everything that happens is really perfect.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was watching a presentation just last night from the Neuroscience Training Summit from like 2 years ago. I'm still trying to catch up on those videos. And he was talking about how like there's an event that results in a feeling afterwards that releases certain chemicals to so the body's learning how the brain is processing and what the brain is believing or what the mind is believing about a situation. And when we practice that pattern over and over, it is then handed over to the subconscious, and we then begin to work and make decisions based on that subconscious. So in your work, maybe we could start with like, what is the subconscious? What is the conscious mind?
Great question. Well, first of all, I'll just quickly say that some people will know it as a subconscious. Yes. And then in other worlds, I'll say in my world of NLP training, we actually refer to it as the unconscious.
Okay.
They are one and the same. They are exactly the same.
Yes.
So when you hear subconscious, unconscious, it's the same thing.
Okay.
The reason that there are two words for it, and the reason that I would say I choose unconscious to refer to it as opposed to subconscious is that prefix is actually it has a negative connotation. It has a lower than, importance is lower than, say, the conscious. So if we say unconscious as opposed to subconscious, there's no lower level to it. In fact, if we were to know exactly how important it is, we'd have to say that the opposite is true. Our conscious mind capacity is only 10%, as opposed to our unconscious mind capacity, which is 90%. So when we say subconscious, to some people the word sub means lower than, less than, or less important than, and that isn't true.
Right. Okay. That's a really interesting way to look at it. And words do, certainly words do matter.
Yes. So back to your question, and I'm sorry, I wanted to be clear on why we say unconscious, subconscious.
Yes.
So what was the question?
The question is the difference between the two.
Okay. So as I mentioned just now that we have the conscious mind capacity is really only 10%, means it's within our conscious awareness. It's what we're actually, in our day-to-day activities, we're aware of what we're doing, what we're saying, how we're feeling. Our unconscious is really what we say in our world drives the bus. Because all of our behavior is stemming from, as I said, being patterned creatures, being creatures of habit, what we're doing on a regular basis. And we have strategies, which are really patterns, for everything. How we get up in the morning, how we brush our teeth, how we put on our clothes, how we shop for things, just a myriad of things. So our unconscious is really what we say is driving the bus. And if we are really taking a hard look at what's causing our problems, our illness and dis-ease in our bodies, it's always going to relate back to a pattern that we've run. Now, for some, and for some time, that pattern may be serving a purpose.
Absolutely.
And then we get to a point in our lives when, guess what, that problem gets really, really loud, and it's no longer serving the purpose. And it's time to do something about it, because that's the universe. It has a sense of humor, I'm told. It will keep giving you the same problem. And the problem, until it gets your attention to do something other than what you've already done, right? Because you got to try something new in order to get different results, right?
Yes.
However, we, being creatures of habit, sometimes we need to get knocked over the head a few times before we finally pay attention.
So, sometimes we need the volume to get really loud.
Yes, the volume will get louder. The problem will get bigger until we finally do something other than what we've already done to alleviate that, to solve the problem, to grow from, to learn from, and move on. And then the problem that was a problem is no longer a problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Until the next one comes along.
Well, exactly. Well, it's like you learn a new movement pattern, and you get really good at like riding a bicycle, right? Like at first it's a lot of thought, then we develop the pattern, then it's like, as the saying goes, it's like riding a bike, which serves a purpose. But when we're talking about illness and dis-ease, we have a solution.
Yes.
And it works for a period of time, then some other life event or something else occurs, and that our way of providing a solution no longer works for this new event or this new emotion or this new pain that we're feeling, and then things can tumble really quickly down, and it's like, how do we get help? Okay, so we do physio, we do these other treatment modalities to begin to start addressing some of the symptoms. Sometimes it goes away, sometimes things persist because at a deeper level there's something else going on. Absolutely.
So again, I'll refer to some of the sayings that I learned through my training, and I love some of these, are great. We say that if you can name it, right? If you can name it, whatever your problem is, that ain't it. Because again, it's a thing you're thinking, it's a conscious thing. And we know that it can't be a conscious thing because it's an unconscious pattern that you're running. So if you can name it, that automatically it ain't it. It's not what's driving the bus. We need to find what is your pattern, what is causing you to repeat this over and over. What haven't you learned yet, in other words, that you are still in the process of learning? I kind of liken it to, I like to use this analogy a lot, that we're either, it's one of three things. You're going through life, and you could be, let's say, driving along in your car, and you could have, the top down if you have a nice convertible, and your hair is blowing in the wind, music's going, beautiful sunny skies, and you're in, let's say, the slow lane, the right lane, and you're just cruising along. Everything's great. And then sometimes you want to get into the fast lane. You want to shift over to the left because you're like ready to boot.
Yes.
You're ready to grow. You're ready to move a lot faster until you hit the boulder in the road, which represents our problem.
Yes.
Right? So you're either just coming into a problem, right? Or coming out of a problem. You're in a problem where you've now hit a boulder in the road.
Yeah.
So now you got to learn what you got to learn to get the boulder out of the way, to get past your problem, learn what you got to learn from that, and then you can get back on the road, back into the right lane, cruising again until the next boulder comes along. Because that's really what it is. It's a process of you're either just coming out of a problem, you're in it, you're learning something, right?
Yeah.
And you're just cruising through to the next problem. So that's just our process of growth. So really every day that we're given is a gift.
Yeah.
Every day that we're given to wake up, to experience what we're going to experience in that lifetime, in that day, is an opportunity for you to learn and to grow. How fast you grow is up to you.
Absolutely. I heard a different saying, just to go on that, is the problem isn't the problem. It's the way that you think about the problem.
Absolutely.
That's the problem,
right?
right?
Do you know who said that?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, so I happen to know this because I was looking up that quote. And I don't know if it's him who originally said it, but I did find it online, and it was actually Captain Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay, I know I heard it somewhere.
I thought that was really cool. Anyway, he said that in the movie, and maybe someone more famous said it before that, and it's so true. It's not the problem, it's how we're reviewing the problem, because it's really a shift in our mindset, in our perspective. And they say that we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And oftentimes, because I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of personal development, and I listen to a lot of people's stories. You know, even successful people talk about the challenges in their life and how when they go back and look at them, they're like, you know, these were one. You know, when I look back at it, it was my favorite failure, or it was my favorite problem because it was the thing that motivated me and got me doing something that's led me to this other great thing. And so sometimes our problems, rather than constantly looking at them as a negative thing, if we're looking at them as a learning experience, the challenge that's going to propel us forward. But sometimes people need help along the way.
Yes.
And it's okay to ask for help too.
Absolutely. You brought up you made a statement, not so much a question, and you brought up a lot of really good points in it. So I'm just going to point out a few that you may or may not be aware of, which I think is really cool because, you know, you mentioned about problems. First of all, everyone's got a story, more than one, right?
Yes.
And it is our stories that make us who we are, right? That bring us to where we are at this point in our lives, right here, right now. And had things been different, right? We always want to say, well, I wonder how that would have gone if I'd have made this different choice.
Yeah.
Everything is a choice. Every moment of every second of every minute of every hour of every day, we're making choices. And from those choices, we have circumstances, we have, you know, whatever happens as a result is what's shaping us. So the only moment we have is right now. You also mentioned that some people, it's how you're viewing it, right?
Yes.
As the problem, right? So, and I kind of want to put it in perspective of, think of it like a line or a spectrum.
Yes.
And on that spectrum, you have at the one extreme or one end, we have what we call being at effect, where people who have a real hard time appreciating that everything that's happening out there in the world isn't necessarily happening to them, yet they'll look at it as the drama queen, right? Or the drama king, who everything is happening to me.
Right.
Another problem, over problem, over problem. And it usually is, like I said, because we're creatures of habit, it's a repetitive problem, right? There's a pattern.
Yes.
They haven't picked up on the fact that it's a pattern yet. Because remember, it's that saying, you know, the old adage, you can't see the forest from the trees. The people on the outside who are more objective can see things that we can't see. So, you know, they're at this one extreme, and they might be thinking things are happening to them.
Yes.
And therefore, they become a victim in their life. They're at the victim mentality where they're believing things are happening to them. Or as they go through their journey called life, these problems, hopefully, will give them enough, let's say, you know, bangs over the head.
Yes.
You got to get hit over the head a few times sometimes to finally wake up.
Yeah.
So it just depends. You know, how many times do you need to get banged over the head to finally wake up?
Yeah.
And you'll learn through that process. So these problems, do they suck? Yeah. They suck.
Yeah, they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like nobody wants to go through them.
So nobody does.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. There's good news and bad news to that. When you get to the point where you are just so done, throw your hands up in the air, I give up type of attitude.
Yes.
Because you're the victim in every circumstance, or you see your problems as being done to you, life's happening to you. The good news is that you've reached a relative rock bottom, and it's relative. So my rock bottom is going to be different than yours, than someone else's.
Yep.
That's the good news. You've hit rock bottom. You know why it's good news? Because there's only one direction you can go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is up.
Yeah.
The bad news, it sucks to be there. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very uncomfortable. You're like boo-hoo, pity party, you know, until you can pull up your bootstraps and say, okay, enough of this.
Yeah.
And learn from whatever it was that was the problem.
Yeah.
It no longer is a problem once you've learned it. So you're moving along the spectrum. You're moving along this line, let's say, to the other end, which is where you want to be, ideally, which is at cause, where you now are no longer a victim, you're a victor, if you will.
Yes.
You are the one responsible for what you've caused in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody's doing anything to you, it's being done for you. You're actually learning through the process. And that is where the growth happens. And it's beautiful when that happens, because the problem that you thought was a problem, once you learn it, it's no longer a problem.
Right.
Until again, the next one comes.
Till the next, you know,
one comes
complexity comes along.
And it's just one series of challenges, issues, obstacles that we want to, you know, tell ourselves are there for us to grow, to learn, to overcome, and to prove to ourselves that we have everything we need right inside of ourselves.
Yeah. and sometimes it's it's okay to also
Yeah.
cry and be like,
Oh, yeah.
this, why is
Yeah.
this happening to me? We need that
yes.
to help us kind of work through. It's just don't get stuck there, right? Don't get stuck in that
Exactly.
victim mode. Be like,
Yes.
this sucks.
Yeah.
I feel all this unpleasantness. I don't want to be here. Even sometimes, people try to move away, ignore,
Yes.
denial, stuff down, repress. That's when the volume then turns up. But, I think if we gave people tools and encouragement to be like, try to step in. It's happening for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening for you to grow.
Exactly.
And you need it to grow.
Exactly.
Get that, get the help, whatever you need. Or, change perspective, change something in your routine. Pull the bootstraps up and allow yourself to be present and go through so that you can grow.
Absolutely. Yes.
So having said, asking for help, how do you help?
So I like to pre-qualify clients who come to me for coaching if I'm doing the unconscious mind work, and because now I've done training in different various hands-on modalities. There are many out there. I don't do them all, obviously.
Yeah.
And I believe in the ones that I've that, let's say, the universe has brought to me in my own journey. Mm-hmm. And I say things like reflexology and detoxing through the ion cleanse, Reiki, which is an energy healing, vibrational remedies, which are similar to homeopathy, where they're made vibropathic with essence, with the actual vibrational signature of an essence, and water. So there are no side effects. There's no ill, side effects to taking these. Working with, again, the person's own energy field. Mm-hmm. So being personalized to them means that if I made you a remedy and you gave it to your child or your husband or someone else, it wouldn't do anything to them.
Yeah.
It wouldn't help them and it wouldn't hurt them.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not working with their energy, it's working with yours. So when I'm working with someone, they might come to me for the hands-on healing, and then through that process, I like to ask a lot of questions, because typically when they're coming in with something that needs their health restored, it may be a physical symptom, or it might be something that's going on emotionally, or it might be a combination of.
Yes.
And so I'm going to work with those people who I say are really at the threshold. It's like anything, that old adage, you can take the horse to water, can't make them drink.
Yes.
You can bring them to the threshold, they have to walk through the doorway.
Yes.
I'm a guide. I'm not healing anyone. In the times that I've been in business for 16 years, I've never healed anyone.
Yes.
And I'm very upfront about that with clients, because I want them to know that I'm not doing the work for them. They're doing the work. All I'm doing is, we've created a very special relationship where there's trust in working with me, trust in the process that I've explained can help them at the unconscious to make change permanently, positively, and we have a rapport. And then with that, I'm holding them accountable.
Right.
So when they need their butts, I'm giving it to them.
Yeah.
When they need their hand held, I'm giving it to them. When they need to refer back to me, because like you said, sometimes they need to cry, and they need to vent, and they need to let it go, because emotion is energy in motion. It has to move.
Yeah, it has to move.
It can't be stored. So we need to release that. And through these therapies that I work with the unconscious mind, I'm able to get to the negative emotional baggage that we all have, because we carry it, you said this earlier, from our childhood. I don't care how good a childhood you've had. We've all been subject to it.
Yeah.
Right. So we have our phases, and psychologically speaking, we have the imprint phase, 0 to 7 years, our modeling phase, 8 to 13, and 14 to 21, socialization. So even up to the age of 21, we're not really completely formed, let's say, completely mentally ready, right? We say kids are adults at 18. I don't agree with that, because they're still developing. Mm-hmm. There's still at least 3 years of development there.
Yeah, on a biological level.
Biologically, psychologically.
Yeah.
So.
And the thing is, the really great part, I think, is that from neurobiology is nothing is really written in stone either. There's neuroplasticity. You can change. Yeah. You can change the way you think. You can change the way that you feel. You just sometimes we just need the guidance of how do we begin to step out of ourselves to be more objective so we can see the trees. Well, what's the saying? The trees.
See the forest.
Yeah, see the forest. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't think I really fully addressed your
continue.
question.
Yeah.
So how do I do this with clients? So I pre-qualify them. As I said, I'd like to invite them to have a very casual, heart-centered, confidential conversation with no obligation. It's me just asking them questions where they're feeling the comfort level of allowing me to get into, at the unconscious level, what am I listening for? There's audio cues, there's actual answers I'm listening for that give me an indication of they're ready or they're not. And then I ask directly, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you want to overcome this, whatever the quote-unquote problem is for them? And I won't accept anything less than a 10 out of 10 if they're not 100% committed. Again, because I'm not doing the work. If they're looking for someone to fix them or their problem, regardless of who they see, regardless of whatever therapy they're going to use, they're going to expect someone outside of themselves to get that resolved. And we know that isn't going to happen because we have it inside of ourselves. We just need to want it bad enough. And like I said, you have to reach your proverbial rock bottom. And again, you'll know when you're there. Everybody knows when they're there. And when they're there, then they're going to make a decision, whether it is to work with me or work with someone else or work with other therapies. Doing something as opposed to doing nothing, because you said it earlier, which is important. You know, we're human. We're meant to feel every human emotion. The problem becomes a problem when we sit there forever. We live on that fence. We live complaining, venting, griping. Nobody wants to hear that day in and day out. Because you're not doing anything to move forward. You're not. So you have to either get off the fence, stay there, be quiet because nobody wants to hear you, or get off on the other side and move forward, do something other than what you've already done. So it's a decision. Everything starts with a decision. Once you tell the universe, I'm done with this, I'm going to do something now that I didn't do before, and I'm out to get results, trust me, you'll get them.
Which is the good news.
That's great news.
It's
That's great news.
It comes down to a decision, right?
For sure. Absolutely.
To make the decision and make the commitment, having the courage.
The courage.
I think probably it starts at courage, having the courage to make the commitment.
And again, it works out to pain. You said pain, right? Pain is actually an acronym for pay attention in the now. That was taught to me by a mentor and a teacher in one of my trainings, and it has stuck with me. And it makes total sense, because how much pain are you in? How bad is your problem? If your problem is so bad, it's got to be to the point, like I said, where it's that the pain of staying the same, you can't handle that anymore. You've got to want to move. You've got to want to change. So something's got to get you off that fence to make a decision to move forward. So the pain's got to be pretty great.
And pain is a motivator.
Absolutely. Pain is a motivator. You know, there's a saying that sometimes pain is our teacher. Right? And it is true that it has to be. So.
Well, that was a really interesting conversation. I hope our viewers have found a very interesting conversation. And I also want to let the viewers know that we'll have Gina's contact information available at the end of the show, as well as in the description. So if you're interested in doing the heartfelt meeting, you know, Gina's going to be more than ready to do that with you, and give you some more information on how she might be able to help you along in that journey if you're ready to embark on the journey, right?
Absolutely.
Any last words, any closing quotes or statements before we end the show?
Well, okay. So I love quotes, and I have a lot I could probably share. Just one that comes to my mind right now, and I love to put it on my communications, my marketing collateral, and the one that I have on my website is probably said best by William Shakespeare, and that is, "To thine own self be true." And so when you really think about what he said in that quote, is that we can lie to the outside world as much as we want for as long as we want. The truth is that we are who we are. At the core, we need to be able to strip away layer upon layer that we've built up over ourselves over time to protect ourselves from all the stuff that's happened to us. And because we're stuck, usually, in our worlds, we're stuck on the what happened, as though it's still happening. And the thing is, it's not happening. So we can get off that merry-go-round of feeling like it's still happening to us. So when we can do that, we can really be who we are at the core. Then we have excelled on every level. We are truly healthy, because no one can tell you who to be. You know who you are, and you can be happy with who you are, love yourself the way you are, and then the whole world will love you as well.
Yeah.
So that
starts with loving yourself.
It's the best thing, is really to thine own self be true.
That's a wonderful quote and a wonderful way to end the show. I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom and your perspective, and the work that you do is really, out there helping people, navigate this thing we call life. So thank you again.
Thank you, Madeline. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, everybody. Till next time. See you later.